Hi everyone and welcome to this new TouchDesigner tutorial. Today we will be creating an interactive distortion effect controlled by your mouse. We will explore a bunch of mixed techniques to process data through chops and dots. We will also use Python code to set the behavior of different inputs and create a unique and interactive experience. Let's dive in and see how it's done. Alright, close the palette and delete these operators here. The first part of this tutorial is creating the visuals, so let's go with the text. Create a text. In this text tab, go to the Common tab and set the resolution 1920 by 1080. And we go back to the text tab and delete this text. Now we are going to create a dot, a text dot. And this dot, drag it here to the dot parameter of our text. Type anything here. And now go to the font tab. And we are going to increase the font size, for example 130. And we are going to decrease the line spacing, -20. And now we are going to pick the font. In my case, I'm going to choose one that is here. Let's see. This one, for example. We can see this here in the background, but we are going to turn it off for now. Next thing we are going to create is a display stop. We are not using it for now, but we are going to adjust its parameters. We are going to write 0.01 for both x and y. And in the midpoint, we are going to write 0 and 0. Later we will connect something to these displays and use it, but for now just leave it like this. The next thing is the composite, okay? And this composite, set it to over. We are also going to use this later, but for now just leave it like this as well. Now we are going to include an RGB delay here, so open the palette, go to Image Filters and look for RGB delay. So drag it over and here it is. Now we are going to plug it here. And finally we are going to drag out a null. And this one we are going to activate in the background, the display. Then what we want to do is to add a background. So we are going to insert here an operator that is another composite and also in over mode. And now we are going to create a movie file in here. And in this movie file in, load a texture. In my case, it is a plastic texture. Here we can see it's a texture like this, So here we are going to attach a fit top. And this fit, set it to 1920 by 1080 resolution. And in the fit mode, we are going to set it to fit outside. Now add a level and join it to the composite. In this level, increase a little bit the black, something like this, and reduce the brightness a little bit, like this. Then what we are going to do next is creating a network box to keep all this well organized, because there are going to be a few operators. And we are going to call this network box visual text, and let's make it purple. Okay, let's go to the second step of this tutorial, which is to create the mouse input. For this, we are going to bring a mouse in chop. And in this mouse in, if we press play, we can see that it's reading the X and Y axis of the mouse. We also want it to display whenever we click the middle mouse button, so we are going to use this middle button switch and we are going to name it click. So when we click the middle mouse button, you see that it is activated. We are going to pull up 3 select, so we are going to pull one first and then copy and paste twice. Alright then. In the first select, we are going to pick the TX channel. In the second one, we are going to pick the TY channel, and in the third one, the click channel. Okay, in the third one, we are going to add a count. And in this count, go to the Count tab and set the limit to loop min-max between 0 and 1. And finally, we are going to get a null from here. I do it with the keyboard shortcut, Alt+N. I'm going to name it the same as the click channel, so it's easier to mention later in Python. And then, from this first select, we are going to get a math and a null. And finally, also from this select, we are going to get another math and another null. Set this null's name to tx, and this one, ty. What else do we need to do? Well, for now, we are going ahead and then we are going to adjust our math ranges, the from range and the to range of the x-axis, and the from range and the to range of the y-axis. For now, we are going to create a network box over here to keep this tidy. Bring it over here. We are going to call it mouse input and make it green. Okay. The next thing we need to do is to generate the lines that we've seen in the beginning of this video that we create with the mouse and cross the screen from one side to the other, generating a distortion in between. So let's create these lines. We are going to go to SOP and create a line SOP. Now turn this off in the background so it doesn't bother us. And we are going to attach a geometry to this line SOP. We are also going to bring a camera here. Okay. And finally, add a render top. First of all, set the resolution to 1920 by 1080. And we are also going to bring a null here. We want there to be two lines, so one that is visible and that you can see, and another one that affects the distortion of our text. So we are going to select all of this and duplicate it. We are going to do a little test to adjust the ranges of these maths. Now let's adjust the geometries of our renders. We are going to tell this one to render geometry 1 and this one to render geometry 2. Okay, so these are already rendering. What we are going to do is to create a circle. And this one, replace it here with our circle and activate the display of this null. So we are going to be looking at this null right here in the background and make it smaller. And now what we want to do is to find out what ranges we have here in the maximum and minimum part of the y-axis and in the minimum and maximum part of the x-axis. So we are going to move this center and we are going to look at the x-axis. It has a minimum value. So minus 2.1 and here up to 2.1 maximum. Okay, let's set it to 0 again. Set the to range to minus 2.1 and 2.1. Now we are going to adjust the from range. Let's go with the y-axis. The minimum will be minus 1.2 and the maximum will be 1.2. Alright, let's set it back to 0. And here we are going to write minus 1.2 and 1.2 on the y-axis. Now let's look at the x-axis. By the way, before we do that, we can now plug this in here and remove the circle. We can turn this tag off. Okay, so for the from range, here we are going to see by hitting play on our TX here, as it comes out of the mouse, it's going to be from minus 1 to 1. So we are going to set the minimum from minus 1 to 1. So what this is going to do is every time this is -1, it's going to transform it to -2.1. Let's do the same thing for the y-axis. Look at this one right here. 0.54 and 0.52. We are going to stick with 0.52 and here 0.52 as well. Alright, so we got our two ranges of this nicely translated. So let's sort this out a little bit. We are going to call this distortion line and create another one here. This one is going to be visible line. We're going to add a line material here. And do it again here. Drag them in, set them as material, and we will come to them later. What we can do is set this one over here to 4 and 4. Let's make them both white, this one and this one. We are going to set it also to 4 and 4. And we are going to take off the beginning and the end. And we're going to set it to white. Now we are going to adjust the thickness with a noise top. Okay. Make it like this. And this noise chop has to be set to time slice. And we are going to set a period of 0.5. Leave this as it is. And here we are going to set it 0.5 and 1. So we are going to add a math here. And in this math, change the range and take it from 1 to 1.5 and from between 70 and 100. And we are going to add a null to the end. This is the thickness that we are going to drag here in our setup. In the width here, these two. Then we will see that we have a line over here. And yeah, that's it. Let's see what we have to do next. Set this to blue and blue. And then activate this display. We are going to move this over here. Plug this in here. We see this start to generate this over here, which is right where our line falls. We are going to create a blur. And this one right here, set it, I don't know, really high. And we are going to create another blur. And this one, something like that. And then create a composite. Sorry. And we are going to set it to add mode. So now let's put this together here and in order. Let's make these two a little bit longer, like this. And we're going to add a level here. go to the opacity and we are going to tweak it a little bit. We can see that if we reduce it, it goes away and so on. Let's leave it like this for now. Let's go for the next thing. So we are going to have a level here and we will leave it as it is for the moment. We are going to plug it into our composite here. So here we can see the line in the same place actually. If we take both this line and this line, and we change point A to -1, we can see how it now goes all the way over here. We already have the non-interactive part, so let's go with the interactive one. So we can control all this distortion and generate this line when we click twice. So here's the tricky part. Create a table dat here. Table dat. And we're going to turn this off in the background for now so it doesn't bother us. And now copy and paste it. So this one is going to correspond, I'm going to indicate it here, to point A of the line. And this one here is going to be called point B. So what this is going to do is it's going to correspond point A and point B. So each one of these tables will be in charge of one of these 2 points, A and B. Please follow these steps and then we will get into the programming part. Create a select from the first table. Copy it and include it over here. Make some room here. And we are going to do the same thing. Create a select here. And over here, another select. Now we are going to create some nulls. So Alt-N, remember, for each one of them. Then we will adjust the parameters of our select, but for now we are going to continue creating the network. Now the first thing we are going to create is a .2 from here, another .2 from here, another one from here, and another one here. Alright, attach a null to the first two, like this, and from the next two we can take out 2 nulls as well. We are going to add something in the middle, and that something is going to be a switch, and another switch over here. Bring a constant for each one of them. And we're going to plug that into the switch. And here another constant. And plug that into the other switch as well. The next thing we need to do now is map in these 2 constants, you'll see later why, or tx and our ty. Let's hit play so we can see that this is moving. Then we are going to take this tx and drag it to our first constant, and we are going to chop reference it. Take this ty and drag it into our second constant and chop reference as well. This switch, when the value is 1, and this one as well, they are going to be picking up our mouse values. Let's leave it at 0 for now. And we are going to create a chop execute that. I'm going to put it here between these two, and in this chop execute we see that we have to select a chop, So the top that we are going to select is our click. Drag and drop it here, and we see that we get this little arrow indicating that this is alluding to that. We are going to write the code first, and then we are going to go ahead and tweak two operators. I will leave the code in the description so you can copy and paste it to look at it and understand it and modify it as you wish. Keep in mind that the names of the operators in the code will depend on the names of the operators of your project, since right now they are adjusted to mine. And it's going to affect our two switches, this one and this one. When our click parameter is 0, these switches are going to be on. It's taking our data from here, so we are going to set this back to 0 and go ahead. We are not getting anything here because we haven't set up these parameters correctly yet. So in the select, we are going to select, here we should already be getting something, right? Oh, there it is. Click a couple of times with the middle mouse button, and we are going to be receiving the channels here. If I do it like this, the first time that we middle click, both of them change. If I click again, only one of them changes. Why? Let's bring our click here. This corresponds to what we are saying here. When the click is 0, it's going to put it in point A and point B, and if not, only in point B. I mean in table A and table B, or only table B. So when this is 0, we see that it adds it in both, and when this is 1, it adds it only in this one here. 0 in both, 1 only in this one. Alright, we are going to bring our click back here. Alright, so in this select first, we are going to set it to by index, and select only the 0 and 0, the first row. In this second one, by index, and write 1 and 1, the second row. In this one here, we are going to do the same thing, by index, and set it by 0. Here we are going to do the same thing, by index. We select it and set it to 1 and 1. 0 and 0, 1 and 1. Well, this one we can put it like this as well. It doesn't matter, really. This dot 2, we are going to set it to first column is values, because up until now, if we don't, it gives us the value as a name and not as a channel. So if we put it in values, we can see that it's already there. Let's do this to our other two, dot 2 here. Sorry, and here. So now we have these switches depending on whether the click is 0 or 1. These switches are going to be choosing the value that we have stored or the value in real time. Why are we going to do this? Well, now we will see. The first thing is going to be to make our network box here. And let's name this, for example, logic, and make it pink. So now we are going to bring it over here, down here. And now we are going to connect them to point A and point B of each other. So these two correspond to point A, and these two correspond to point B. So we are going to go ahead and fill in our lines. Put in point A, x-axis, and y-axis, the second one. We are going to put it at point B on the x-axis and point B on the y-axis. So now we are going to do the same thing with the second line. Let's do it like this. If we click in the middle mouse button, we can generate a line that is going to distort. Leave it here, and now it's going to stay distorting. The first thing we are going to adjust is the thickness of this line, and we are going to set it to 2 and 2. Let's make it more subtle and more discrete. We are going to set it to even 1 and 1, and we are going to set it to blend transparency, although we may not even need to. And as we can see, this is ready. What we can do now is go in over here to project, and we are going to go back in. And before we leave, we are going to call this null at the end BG. And now go to the project look tab, and we are going to change this to BG. We are going to set our layout to 1920 by 1080, and in our perform, go to opening size, set it to fill, and remove borders. So then we can go up here on the top left and turn on the perform. And as you can see, we already have this real-time interactive visual. Here we can make a lot of adjustments. Let's go first with making this line disappear, so it doesn't stay here all the time. In fact, something that I like and that we can add are 2 circles at the 2 ends of the line. We are going to draw dots and we are going to put them in. Something like this. And we already have those 2 dots and we are going to make them white. Here and here. Okay, so now we are going to create and hold these points. Now we see that when I click, it's not very precise where it's detected, and we will adjust that. We can see it bigger. We will be polishing up details in a little bit. What I want now is for this line to disappear when I click. We are going to add a timer chop. And in this timer, go to the outputs, turn them all off, and turn on time count and seconds. Let's go back to timer tab, set the length to 1. Press start. Sorry, you had to press init as well. We are going to create a math. In this math, go to the range tab, and we are going to set it from 1 to 0. We are going to make it affect our opacity here, but instead of dragging it, we are going to do it through our Python code. So here we are going to write OP. What was it called? Level 2? Let's see. Level 3. And it's going to affect our opacity parameter and write OP. And I'm going to take a bracket here because my keyboard is not working right, and put it here. Let's call it timer 1. And this is called timer_seconds. And now we are going to copy this and paste. We are going to set our level 3 parameter, opacity. Let's change this, and instead of putting this one, let's see what our node is called. Okay, alright, node 1. Node 1, timer seconds. And finally, we are going to add in the OP timer 1 dot bar dot initialize dot pulse brackets, and in the OP timer 1 in the start parameter we are going to generate a pulse as well. So we've got everything right now in terms of code. Once we do this, we got it inverted here. The line is gone, like that. If we want the line to stay a little bit longer and not disappear completely, and want to be able to see the trace, in this math we can set it to 0.05 instead of 0. Now we will see that a small trace remains to see our selection. I do not know if it will be seen well in the recording. And finally, what we could do, if we want to, is we could tweak all of this a little bit. In this math here, we could write minus 1.3 and 1.3. In this math here, we are going to adjust it. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, it looks pretty good now. What else could we do now to play with this? We can play with the color. We see that this changes. Let's add over here another one, for example. If I change this and make it blue, it also makes different distortions depending on the color. That's one of the things that we could do. We could also play with the parameters of this math that come from the noise. If we turn this up, we will see that this gets bigger. And if we make it smaller, we'll see that there's a shorter distance. Adjust it as you like. We could increase the blur a little bit more, or maybe increase the displacement scale of the displays, and so on. Then, to finish, let's activate the perform mode to see it better. And let's put this line a little bit more visible here in this math. Let's write 0.1. Now it looks a little bit better. We are going to cross this word over like this. And finally, we are done. Alright, so now we come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you've learned different techniques for processing data and how to use Python to customize the behavior of your artwork. If this tutorial was useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, enjoy using TouchDesigner and keep exploring. See you soon.